Hey guys, this is Brian again. Today's not really going to be about how to repair a piece of equipment. I've got something here I thought might be pretty interesting for some of you folks. It's what happens when you don't maintain your equipment properly, which is what we've got right here in front of us. But before we get started, as usual, make sure you wear your safety equipment, make sure pressure's off, no electrical shock is going to be an issue. Unplug it, depressurize, safety glasses, all that good stuff. So I've got a customer come in and said it's Titan 440, which as you can see doesn't look the greatest in the first place, but I've already removed all of this. But he said his Titan 440 wasn't running. Turn it on, nothing would happen. The motor wouldn't run, nothing. So I plug it in, turn it on, which I can already tell right off the bat what the problem was. But turn it on and there's no, nothing. Motor's not running, but I can hear a hum. So I unplug it and tell them what the diagnosis is, which is throw this into trash because you failed to maintain your piece of equipment. Now, he had a piece of duct tape over this hole, which is your sight glass for your oil fill. And you can see that's not oil coming out of there, that's paint. But whenever I see this tells me right off the bat you've got major problems. What happens on the Titan machine, when your upper packings fail, you get a leak. And the leak will fill the front cover full of paint. And it will overflow from inside of here. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 shades of paint across here. So this tells me that he has used this for at least 4 different colors before he decided to bring it in to find out what was wrong. So I'm going to take this front cover off. That screw there. You already know this is going to make a mess real quick, so pull this front cover off and that's what you got. Look at that. That looks great, don't it? You got more paint in this machine than you had on the wall. Now, what happens, again, the paint will leak out of the top end of the piston, and there's a cup there to hold your oil. Hey, it's opening up so we can see in there. So the oil lubricates, or not lubricates, but it protects your piston from overspray. Well, on this Titan, this cover, the front cover, seals pretty well, and the paint doesn't leak out. On the older models, they had a small slot here where you would fill with oil, and that would actually show you when you're leaking. In this situation, it's got to get pretty full before it starts to leak. But even before it starts to leak, you should notice a loss of pressure on your machine because you've got a leak. So you're not able to pressurize properly. With that being said, this fills up. You've got a set of bearings here on your connecting rod. The bearings are now coated in paint. And in here, your gear, your main gear, which looks like this, comes in. That's where your connecting rod hits. This is a bearing. That's now full of paint. And what has happened, because paint is not a lubricant, it has seized the bearings. So this will not rotate, which is the problem he was finding out. When he would turn it on, nothing would happen except a hum. And this thing's not supposed to know a tune, so it shouldn't be humming anything. And if you can see here, the paint has come in through the motor, and that's solidified paint right there. And that's not a little bit of paint, that's a lot of paint. And get a light in there so you can see better. You see that paint has come around the bearings and down the motor shaft, and it's actually inside of the motor now. So the motor, even trying to turn it manually, I cannot crank this around. So you've basically trying to save, let's see, $80 for the packings, $80 for the labor, $160. You, instead of spending that $160, he kept using this machine on the job. Now, I've heard people say, oh, they're trying to finish out a job. Okay, there's 4 different colors coming out of this pump. Your job didn't probably take 4 different colors of paint. And this paint is on here pretty tight, so this has been occurring for a long period of time. So now you just took this $1,300 piece of equipment and not spending the $160 to fix it, you just threw $1,300 in the trash. Because now, if you decided to fix this machine, you've got $500 in a motor, $300 in a gear housing, $120 for a piston, $80 for the packings, and then I'm not going to be easy on the labor. So just in the parts alone, you spent more than the machine would cost you new. So this is why maintenance is very important on your machines. When you're using your machine and you notice it's taking a little bit longer for the gun to pressurize and stop pumping, that means that's your warning that your packings are starting to wear. And this is on Titan or Graco in that situation. Or any spray machine. When it's taking longer than what you would normally expect the machine to run between trigger pulls, then that's your warning. Hey, you need to get your packings checked out. If I were to pull this pump off, not only are the packings bad, but the piston's bad. When that paint leaks out, it will actually cut the piston. When you've got 3,300 pounds of pressure leaking out of that packing, it will rub against this piston, and this is hardened steel. And I'm hoping you could see these scratches. Now this is off of a different machine, but you can see the pits and the scratches on this piston. Now how much of a leak do you think you have to have, and what kind of time frame to get paint to cut hardened steel? Now 3,000 pounds of pressure seems like a lot, but it's not really that much when you're trying to get paint to cut hardened steel. So this is a situation on this machine that had been leaking for a while. This one has been leaking even longer. And I guarantee you, if I pull that piston out, you'll see a nice hard groove through the upper end of this piston up here. This here happens when you continue to use the packings, the piston and packing combination when they fail, but you don't get the leak like here. The leak here occurs when this end of the piston gets damaged through pressure cutting, a leak, and it keeps going and it cuts through that piston, cuts. So this is something that's been going on for a period of time. This wasn't, I'm trying to get a job finished. This is just complete neglect. You went from $160, $170 repair for packings and labor, to the next step was a $280 repair because packings and now the piston is going to wear out faster because you didn't replace the packings. So you went to almost $300 on a repair that you didn't want to spend the money. Now you're up to a complete replacement of a $1,200 machine. Simple, easy stuff. Costs you money. Yeah, you might spend $1,200, $1,300 on this machine, but the machine did you $15,000, $20,000 worth of work. But at the same time, when this machine is sitting here in the shop because you're not using it, that means it's not making you money. That means you're sitting at home, you're doing something else that's not making as much money. You're not productive at this point because your machine is sitting here instead of making you the money. Maybe a small price to pay, maybe small inconvenience, but at the same time, you can't be mad at the equipment when you're not willing to take care of it. As usual, if you got any questions, comments, drop them in the comment section below. If you got any suggestions of videos, and I repair a lot of different equipment, feel free to give me a request and we'll see what we can do. Y'all be safe. Thank you.